from my professional experience, being involved in both the European level, I have been working in Civitas, Prosperity, and other projects in Healthies, and with my role of transport planner when I'm called to support cities for their plans. What I've seen in Italy recently, that the gap between the European guidelines and the European concept has been shortened compared to the Italian practice. If you consider that in Italy, since year 2000, there was already in national legislation a urban mobility plan, which was something different for what it would have become the official European SUMPs, and it was not so compulsory, so enforced and up to the technical standards, European technical standards. Last year, a new legislation was finally approved by the Italian Minister of Transport that came in acknowledgement of the European directives, but it was also the result of a working group that was established among our public authorities at different levels, so national, regional, and local level, specifically to deal with high quality in the Po Valley, so in northern Italy, which is one of the most polluted regions in Europe because of the density of cities, but also the orographic situation. And therefore, these new guidelines that have been approved, that have strong, they are compulsory for cities or metropolitan areas or group of neighboring cities with more than 100,000 inhabitants. It establishes a minimum level of content of the plans that are now officially sustainable urban mobility plans. It includes the definition of the table of minimum standard table of content of the plans. It fixes standards for the minimum requirements of the planning steps and the approval, because the aim is to have plans that are approved by the local councils so that can be enforced. It includes, it gives a strong relevance to monitoring and evaluation as a way to have a continuous improvement of the plan. So you draft the plan, you set some objectives at the beginning, you implement it, and you check by means of measuring indicators the extent in which your objective has been achieved, so that at the next round, in the new generation of the plan, you can improve it. And there is a strong commitment to make them work, meaning that national funding targeting relevant infrastructure for urban mobility, for instance, new tram lines or new metro lines, can be approved and provided to local administration only if they are part of an integrated planning which has been drafted and approved. And so this is the initiative at the national level, but in parallel with what I have seen is also a, let's say, a bottom-up approach from the local authorities and municipalities. Also, what I've seen is that more and more cities disregard the new legislation that came into force last year. They started to draft more and more plans, because I see a real commitment for local politicians also to improve sustainability of the mobility inside their city. And therefore, also thanks to some support of the regional, some of the regional authorities that fostered the drafting of the plans, provided the support, which is not only financial, but it was also coordination, knowledge exchange. More and more cities have been drafting plans with a new approach, meaning that there is a more relevant attention on stakeholders' involvement, not just for public acceptance of the plans, but also to have really people and stakeholders on board in building the plan, in defining the strategies, in saying their view in the planning process. Another point of strength is more and more attention to walking and cycling. This is, best practice at European level, but for the Italian standards, which for long years was more car-oriented, is something new. And now we see attention to shared space, livability of public spaces, and this is something new and something relevant that will change the urban environment in Italian cities. What I can add is that this is a real a personal practice of our consultancy firm, that we foster gender-sensitive planning approaches. This is something new to some extent in the Italian practice in urban planning, but we try since the very beginning of the planning process, so since the background analysis, since the initial surveys, we try to learn more about how women and males have a different travel behavior, different modal choice, different purposes of travels. This will lead us to build better policies in the cities for all the users, all the citizens, not just women, so gender, but also vulnerable groups, elderly, the young, and the other vulnerable groups. We have been working with the municipality of Parma, who was one of the first Italian cities to draft and then approve a full sustainable urban mobility plans, including an environmental, strategic environmental assessment, which is something compulsory in the Italian legislation. And this is not the first integrated plan they did, but now they bring it up to the European standards, and in their planning process we can see also that they are used to implement the plan, because this is something relevant, not to leave it on paper, and we can see the positive impacts on the mobility in the city. More than missing, I mean, not all the cities are at the same level. I would say there is good practice, advanced cities that are drafting or drafted a good plan, but in terms of, if I have an overview of the full country, not all the cities are at the same level. Some are more latecomers. They are trying, they are starting now to have a different approach on mobility, but this is not the common standard yet. But I'm confident that with the new legislation, with the increasing interest in these topics, the situation will improve. What I would suggest to cities, to practitioners, is to give some flexibility in the plan, because recently new solutions, the toolbox that a city has to deal with mobility is changing at a very fast step. I refer to a new concept of shared mobility, of electromobility, not to say autonomous driving. So a new solution appears, and therefore you should be ready to have a flexible plan, and you should be ready to adapt it and revise it also thanks to monitoring.